Hello, my name is Lindy Humphrey, and this is Lab 2, Lines of Charge for Physics 2. The introduction for this lab is the purpose is comparing the electrical force from a point charge model of the floating tape in Lab 1 to a line of charges. We're going to use the GlowScript code to create a computational model and simulate the tape and interacting forces. An overview of the results is that we're going to find the charge on each piece of tape from the point charge, and then we're also going to find the charge on each piece of tape from the line of charges. And then we also included a picture from Lab 1. The main fundamental principles for this lab is the same as Lab 1, and it's Newton's law of motion, which is the system's change in momentum is proportional to net force applied, and that equals F net equals delta P over delta T, or M delta V over delta T. We also have Coulomb's law, which describes the force of attraction or repulsion between two electrical charges, which is 1 over 4 pi E net times Q1 times Q2 over R squared times R hat. And then we also have gravitational force, which describes the attractive force between any two objects of mass. And all of these equations are very important for this lab because they help with any of the calculations that we needed between this lab and from Lab 1 and in physics in general. And then the system and surroundings, or the initial conditions from Lab 1, still carries over to this lab, and those included the tape length, which is 20 centimeters, the tape mass, which is 0.2 grams, the system being tape B, the surroundings, tape A and everything else, and then the distance that we measured between the two tapes was 3 centimeters. And then the results from the previous lab was the magnitude of the gravitational force on tape B being 0.00196 newtons, and the electrical charge on tape B being 1.4 times 10 to the negative 8 coulombs, and the work shown for each of them. And then I also included the results from the GlowScript code from the last lab to show what the code ended up being in the model for the previous lab to compare it to this lab. And then here was the code for the model in this lab. The circled elements is the electrical field and the line charges that we had to edit and put in for the GlowScript code. And then I also included any other calculations that we had to make throughout this lab and put them into the code. And then here was the model that was given to us based on that GlowScript code. It answers the first question: what is the magnitude of the charge on one piece of tape? And any assumptions that we had to make was ignore air resistance on a moving object, treat the long tape as if it was a point charge, so all the charges were concentrated on the center of the tape, and then assume that each U-tape that we made had about the same amount of charge that were evenly distributed. And then possible sources of error that we have to account for was the measurements during the experiment wasn't totally accurate, or that there was a loss of charge due to handling or environment when we did the calculations or we did the experiment itself, which all fall under human error as well. And then the ending questions for the what if and why questions. When we compare the two data points seen in this lab, the estimates differ due to different levels of precision in calculations. And then the line charge is closer to the real value because it uses smaller segments of charge instead of generalizing to a single point. And that's all for my lab. Thank you.